Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I'm Tina. Today I'm wearing the same shirt I was wearing in my last video, but that's okay. It's because I filmed them at the same time. Ooh, big surprise. So this is my October wrap-up and November What's Up video. So October for me went by in a whirlwind. Not only was it the trick-or-treat-a-thon, so I was reading a lot of books, or trying to, but I had a wedding to go to, there was Thanksgiving celebrations, and Oktoberfest, my kid's birthday, a round of illnesses that are still going on, and it was Halloween. Busy, busy time. The trick-or-treat-a-thon was very fun, though, and I'll definitely be doing it next year. I made a few mistakes with it going in, but now I know best approaches. Anyway, I read 10 books this month. It was actually 13, but 3 are getting reviews next month, so I won't talk about those in this. I generally really only talk about books that I reviewed because it's kind of a wrap-up. Anyway, so I read 1 historical fiction, 1 literary fiction historical fiction retelling, 1 post-apocalyptic sci-fi, 2 horror fantasy retellings, 1 literary fiction, 1 sci-fi comedy, 1 sci-fi Shakespearean adaptation, 1 nonfiction, and 1 almost classic sci-fi. So these books were Brickworks, which is about 2 men trying to build a brickworks in Ontario in the 1890s, I believe, or the early 1900s. It was a really good historical fiction in that it was very detailed. It was a bit dry, but I really liked it. Once a Monster. So this was you take the Minotaur, and he's immortal, apparently, and he's living in London in the 1870s, and he washes up on a river, and a little orphan girl finds him, and it's basically about them developing a friendship, but also kind of learning to adapt and escape from their situations. It's really, really good. I really like that one. The Odyssey of Fletcher. This is a self-published post-apocalyptic sci-fi about, it's like a satire about a man that is the last man alive after a virus wipes out the rest of men, and he's kind of a loser. That's kind of the point. It's really fun. We have Alice by Christina Henry. This was a kind of, not a retelling, but an adaptation of the Alice in Wonderland kind of story. It's set in this bizarre fantasy world that's very violent and has a lot of weird stuff going on, but I really enjoyed it. I couldn't stop reading it. There's Jawbone, which is a Canadian short literary fiction novella about a woman who just, doesn't like to make decisions, and she runs from a lot of stuff in her life, and that's kind of the idea behind it. There's Pinchers of Death, which was the fifth and final sixth and final of the Space Captain Smith books. I loved this. I didn't review it because... Did I review it? I didn't review it because it's the 6th one in a series that not a lot of people have read, I don't think. But if you love that series, I highly recommend it. If you haven't read the series, I definitely recommend you check it out. It's so funny. So the first one was called Space Captain Smith. The Salt Grows Heavy is another one I read, which is a novella, which is another retelling of the Little Mermaid story, but where she is kind of not an evil creature, but an angry creature, and she pairs up with a plague doctor, and they try to save some children from some weird cultists. It's very dark and very fun. The Death I Gave Him, which is a Shakespearean adaptation of Hamlet, set in the future, kind of a locked door mystery where Hamlet's dad is murdered yet again, and he's trying to figure out who did it, etc., etc. It's just kind of set in this laboratory. Doom, Knee Deep in the Dead, which I reviewed the other day, which is a video game adaptation, military sci-fi from 1995, and it was fun. It's what you expected. And then I also listened to on audiobook Come As You Are, which is a nonfiction about sexuality, which was really, really, really interesting. So if you identify as a woman, it's probably really helpful for you. If you are a man in a relationship with a woman, I also highly recommend you listen to it. It's really, really interesting. I don't really review nonfiction here because it would just be me being like, these were some interesting points. But I'll talk about them once in a while. I do like listening to audiobooks of nonfiction. So to choose a favorite from all of these is going to be really, really tough. I say this every month, but that's because it's like, I always have trouble. But Once a Monster, Alice, Jawbone, The Salt Grows Heavy, and even Pinchers of Death, I really loved. I guess I can try to cut out these books based on like the tiniest of like infractions. So The Salt Grows Heavy has some really weird prose that I found needed some reining in. So fine. Cut it out for that reason. Jawbone was a bit too artsy. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't like fall in love with it. So there we go. Pinterest was a fantastic finale to a wonderful series, but it has its flaws too. So there we go. That leaves Alice and Once a Monster. The latter I really, really did love, but I mean, it does have some slow parts. It kind of, sometimes the momentum kind of peters out. So I guess the only book left then that I really can't think of any problems I had with it, and that is Alice. Like, I really, really loved it. So yeah, I guess it's Alice by Christina Henry as my favorite book for October, which is fitting because it is like a horror. So there we go. So in November, I am going to read. So it's kind of funny because I'm doing my wrap up on Friday, but I actually posted the review for this one, Food for Thought, yesterday. So Food for Thought, which was a novella, it's a short story almost, pretty much, and it's an ancient Greek kind of retelling. So there we go. So then there's Godworld by Philip Ginn. This is a book that I actually read for the readathon. I'm going to be reviewing it next week. It is part 3 of a new adult sci-fi series. It's really fun. Then there's Lessons Never Learned, which is a fantasy. It's part 2 of Along the Razor's Edge. I can tell you already that I also read it for the readathon, and I loved it. So that review is coming up. I'm also going to be reading, I haven't read this one yet actually, where is it? The Stainless Steel Rat by Harry Harrison. I think I said I was going to read this last month, but I had to use Doom for the readathon, so I'm going to be reading this. I'm really excited because I've heard that a lot of people really like it. I'm going to be reading On the Isle of Antioch. Antioch, is that how you say it? I don't know. Which is a kind of dystopian sort of... which is like a dystopian speculative fiction. I'm not really sure. I got this one on NetGalley. I'm also going to be reading Yours for the Taking, which is also on NetGalley, and I have no idea what this is. I'm pretty sure it's a science fiction, but I cannot remember. I should probably look these things up before I start talking about them. Was there anything else I was going to read? Oh yeah, this one, Love and Rain by Carmela Cercelli. This is a small press book. It's set in Quebec in the 1970s, so it sounds really interesting to me. I don't really know. It's a haunting and beautiful story, apparently. So I think it's going to be a bit serious. But I love reading these kind of Canadian small press ones because I'm Canadian. I like to support the Canadian publishing market. And I'm also going to be I'm not going to be reviewing this till December, but I am rereading Malazan. I'm going to start rereading it. Gardens of the Moon. I read it first when I was 14. When it first came out, this is a first edition that I bought from Chapters Indigo for $10. These are now selling for like $90 on eBay, and I love it. So yeah, I'm going to be doing actually a vlog, and I'm going to do an attempt at a vlog. Because I've read this before, it's a reread. I'll probably like remember things as I go, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of do an intro video about it and then kind of tag on little kind of mini reviews of each chapter or every other chapter, something like that in there. So I've never done a vlog before, so that's kind of my thing. I'm going to be filming this vlog over the course of November, and then I'm going to be posting it like first or second week of December, depending on if I finish it, when I finish it, because I'm kind of like throwing it in amidst the other books. I think that's all I really have for... Oh yeah, we're reading... For the Interstellar Book Club, we're going to be reading The Deep Sky. Is that what it's called? Whatever, it's this one here. So I'm going to be reading that too. So, yeah. That is my wrap up for October. Let me know in the comments if you read any of these books, if you plan on reading any of them, and I guess you can also just say whatever else you want in the comments. Thanks.